Right, so we had a polynomial. It could have been a binomial. It could have been a trinomial. It could have been a polynomial, right? And we looked and we saw what does every single term share. And we said, what does every single term share? And then we divided every single term by the greatest common factor. So we undistributed. Today we are going to unfoil. Yesterday our answer was a distributive property problem, right? Something in front of the parentheses and something inside the parentheses. Today we're unfoiling. What do you think our answer is going to look like when we unfoil? Ben?
A binomial times a binomial.
Perfect. Our answer is going to be a binomial times a binomial because FOIL is only used for a binomial times a binomial, correct? So we are unfoiling, meaning our answer, our factored answer, will be a binomial times a binomial. Ladies and gentlemen, every single problem you have today will be a trinomial. And that trinomial will be factored into a binomial times a binomial. And this trinomial will be in the form x squared plus bx plus c. X squared, or maybe a different variable. Maybe it'll be in the form y squared plus by plus c. And all we're looking for today, when we have this trinomial, we are looking for factors of c that have a sum of b. We are looking for factors of c that have a sum of b. Factors of c that have a sum of b. Ready? X squared plus 10x plus 24. What's my c value?
24.
24. What's my b value?
10.
I'm looking for factors of 24 that have a sum of 10. I'm looking for factors of 24, factors of c that have a sum of b. Factors of 24 that have a sum of 10. Now here's the deal. If you don't know your factors, sometimes they're really random numbers that I don't know off the top of my head. You look at your factor squares, right? So we're looking for factors of 24. Our factors are the little numbers inside, right? That have a sum of 10. So what times what equals 24? 6 times 4 equals 24. And 6 plus 4 equals 10. Factors of 24 that have a sum of 10. So my answer is going to be, I'm unfoiling a binomial times a binomial. I just factored it.
That's it?
That's it.
That's the problem.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
the whole page.
What?
No, that's not the whole page.
Yeah, that's all we're gonna do.
Let's try another one.
That would be pretty neat.
Christmas colors.
X squared plus 19x plus 60. X squared plus 19x plus 60. So factors of what that have a sum of what?
60
Factors of 60 that have a sum of 19. So I'm going to look at my factor squares. Here's 60. Here's the great thing about the factor squares. When I made the factor squares, 2 times 30, they're across from each other. those are factors that make 60. 3 and 20, right? And then if it's a really big number like 60, then they go across horizontally. What times what equals 60, but what plus what equals
4 and 15.
4 and 15. So my answer is x plus 4, x plus 15. Could somebody out there write x plus 15 and x plus 4?
Yes.
Doesn't matter, right? Same thing. It can't be this easy,
No, this is this level.
right? So what you need to be aware of,
Orange.
if the leading coefficient is negative, if the leading coefficient is negative, factor out a negative. Yesterday, it was if everything was negative. Today, it is if the leading coefficient is negative. If the leading coefficient is negative. Because if you look up here, you guys, are there leading coefficients?
Yeah. No.
No, there is no leading coefficient. It's 1. So it's not there. If your leading coefficient is negative, factor out a negative. If the leading coefficient is negative, factor out the negative. So let's do negative y squared plus 8y, hold on, minus 15. I cannot start this problem. I cannot say factors of negative 15 that have a sum of positive 8. I can't. I'm going to change that to positive. Hold on, I'm trying to do math in my head.
Use a calculator.
Make that a 2. I told you I was trying to do mental math. It's hard to do mental math and talk. I cannot do factors of 15 that have a sum of 2. I can't yet. Because I have a leading coefficient that's negative. So I need to rewrite this. I need to take that negative 1 out. So if I take out the negative 1, that means everything changes, correct? Instead of negative y squared, what does it become? Positive y squared. Instead of positive 2y, what does it become? Negative 2y. And instead of 15, what does it become? Negative 15. Now I can do this problem. I can do factors of negative 15. What times what equals negative 15? That have a sum of negative 2. But when I add them, I get negative 2. What times what equals negative 15? So it's going to be a combo of 5 and 3, right? But I want negative 15. So when I multiply to get a negative value, I know one of the values must be
Negative.
and the other must be.
Positive.
So what combination of 5 and 3, negative, positive, makes negative 2 as a sum?
Negative 5 and positive.
Y minus 5 and y plus 3, but that's not my answer because I have a leading coefficient that was negative. I factored out negative 1. And that's my solution.
Is there like more
Y
parentheses in
Y
that?
slash 5 and
If you did plus 5 and minus 3,
yeah.
would you get negative 2? You'd get positive 2. But you could flip-flop the order of them. You could put y plus 3 and y minus 5, but you have to have negative 5 and positive 3. Because that's the only way of getting a sum of -2, and a product of -15.
So the answer has to be like that?
It has to be these two factors. You could write it as y plus 3 and y minus 5. You could flip the order of the binomials, but you cannot flip the positive negative. Last but not least, you also need to see, is there a GCF? Is there a GCF? Is there a greatest common factor? For example, 4x squared plus 8x minus 252.
That's a large number.
Is there a greatest common factor?
Probably.
Probably. It's probably the leading coefficient, don't you think? Maybe. So let's see. My leading coefficient's 4. Don't you put that calculator up. Is 4 divisible by 4?
Yeah.
Is 8 divisible by 4?
Yeah.
Is 252 divisible by 4?
Maybe.
How do you, what's the rule for 4s?
If you add them together, it makes.
No.
No, and the last
The last 2 digits are divisible by 4. Is 52 divisible by 4?
Yes.
Yes. So is 252 divisible by 4?
Yeah.
Yes. Here we go. Now you can use a calculator.
So weird.
I have a greatest common factor that is 4.
So you divide everything by 4?
Everything gets divided by 4.
Ooh, I don't like this. Why not?
This is what we did yesterday. Greatest common factor. What's 4x squared divided by 4?
X squared.
X squared. What's 8x divided by 4?
2.
Positive?
Yes.
2x. What's negative 252 divided by 4?
I don't know.
Negative 63. Is that my answer though?
No.
Remember, you have to have your greatest common factor.
So,
Oh, yeah.
times 4? Then wouldn't it just be the same thing?
We're undistributing.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Now,
That's just the same thing that we did yesterday.
let's look. Can I factor it? Are there factors? What times what equals negative 63? What times what equals negative 63? Factors of
And 7. Oh, yeah.
negative 63 that have a sum of 2.
I don't know.
What times what equals negative 63?
7 times.
So you just, is that gonna be our homework where we do the undistributing and then we do the next thing?
Negative 7 and positive 9. Is that my answer?
No.
No, because I have a greatest common factor of
4.
4.
That's pretty cool.
No.
I'm glad I impressed you today.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing as
She
the first
impresses
thing
us every
written.
day.
We should just do the first thing written.
5 practice problems. Are you ready?
5.
How many homework problems do we have?
Hill,
Like
different.
10?
Something near that.
12?
Okay, practice.
We have a bell work quiz on Thursday.
Practice.
Yes, it says it up there. Up there.
X squared minus 10x
Do we have school on Friday?
plus 16. Yes. X squared minus 10x plus 16. Is there a leading coefficient?
No.
Is there a negative that we have to factor out? No, so this is just a simple, easy problem, correct?
Easy.
All right, so I'm looking for factors of what?
16.
16 that has a sum of... Now here's what you need to start being able to do mentally.
A negative.
I know that I need a positive answer when I multiply and a negative answer when I add. So a positive answer when you multiply is either a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. What times what equals 16, but when you add them, you get negative 10. Jordan, what's your question?
What happens to the x to the power of 2 when you do all this?
I'll show you in just a second.
Okay.
Let's get our answer. What times what equals negative 16, but when you add them, you get, no, positive 16. Add them, you get negative 10. Brad? Perfect. X minus 8 and x minus 2. You could flip-flop those around. X minus 2 and x minus 8, that's fine. Jordan, the x squared comes from here. First, outside, inside, last. Remember? First. X times x is x squared. Outside, negative 2x and negative 8x. Outside and inside combine to make negative 10x. And last, negative 8 times negative 2 makes 16.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What if there's like x to cube?
8 times
Would that be a trinomial?
That'd be a trinomial.
Negative 8 plus.
Yeah, what if it was a trinomial times a binomial?
We're only doing binomials. We're unfoiling today.
Aren't they all
Unfoiling.
Oh,
We'll
no.
get to it, Jordan. We'll get to it.
I thought it was like foil oil.
10 negative 10x squared minus 50x plus 15. Negative 10x squared minus 50x plus 15. Here's my problem. I have a leading coefficient,
And
correct?
a greatest common factor.
And on top of that, it's also a negative leading coefficient. So I have to have a greatest common factor. I would love it if my greatest common factor was negative 10, right? I'd love to just get rid of it. But it's not negative 10. It's going to be 5. So I'm going to divide everything not just by 5, but by negative 5, because I want to get rid of that negative as my leading coefficient. What's negative 10x squared divided by negative 5? 2x squared.
What do we put like negative 5 instead of positive 5?
Where do we put?
Never mind.
Okay. Negative 50x divided by negative 5 is positive 10x. 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. That's not my answer.
Yeah.
I got 5s and 2s.
This is my answer. And ladies and gentlemen, today we're done.
Wait, really?
No.
With this problem. Excuse me for not clarifying.
Do the other part.
Well, then
Because we only know how to do it if there is no leading coefficient. The leading coefficient must be 1. It must be just x squared. This problem, simplified, undistributed, says 2x squared. We cannot do that today.
Dang. That's not.
No.
Tomorrow.
No. Are you kidding? No. I got real stuff to do.
You'll
You
survive.
didn't check with me, Kalia. We done it for
All right, let's try this one.
Just
What
don't
happens
go
if
homework
just learning
Thursday.
the multiplication
I'll be
of
fine.
12?
No
Do
homework.
multiplication.
Open house.
Plus 1 times 2. Like that.
Yeah.
2x squared plus 50x plus 48. Number 3, 2x squared plus 50x plus 48. Try it. 2x squared plus 50x plus 48. I've got a leading coefficient. It's not negative, but I've got a leading coefficient.
So you do have to find
You gotta divide it by 2.
So I do have to find a greatest common factor. My greatest common factor is
2.
2.
Oh,
2x squared divided by 2 is x squared.
How do you know 1?
50x divided by 2 is
25.
plus 25x. And 48 divided by 2 is
24.
positive 24. Put my greatest common factor in front. It is in the type of form that I can factor. So I'm looking for a sum of 24. No.
25.
factors, whoops, factors of 24 and a sum of 25.
24 and 1.
What is it, Daniel?
24 and 1.
And that's the one that people forget the most.
Really?
Why?
That's the
Because you look at it and you're like, oh, 2 and 12, no. 6 and 4, no. 3 and 8, no. Oh, there must not be any.
Well, darn.
Don't forget, it's the number itself and 1 are a set of factors that aren't listed. So, x plus 1, x plus 24, or you could flip-flop it. Doesn't matter. But there is a greatest common factor of 2.
Okay, so if the, just keep the 2 on the front.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, if the equation was like 6x squared,
Mm-hmm.
that all of them have like greater factor of 2.
Mm-hmm. Then we're done. Yeah, if this was a 6x squared, but you could only divide by 2 because that's the greatest common factor, you'd divide by 2 and then you'd be stuck. Because we can't, because 6 divided by 2, that would leave you with a leading coefficient. That would give you a coefficient of 3. Just like this one up here. We had to stop because we had a 2. And there's no more greatest common factors, so we're done.
The rule is just always to keep dividing down as far as you can go. But once you can't go anymore, that's the
So it's just the
granted if you've done the work right.
We just did.
All right, here we go.
I want to find it. It's a
3x squared plus 51xy plus 210y squared.
I know.
3x squared plus 51xy plus 210y squared.
Factor trees. That's what they're like.
3.
We did factor trees yesterday. All right, so there's a leading coefficient, so I have to stop and I have to look, is there a greatest common factor?
They're all gonna be 3.
Divisible by 3s, I can check before I start wasting time of just plug and chug, right?
Or you can use a calculator.
Plug and chug.
5 plus 1 is 6. 6 is divisible by 3. 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 0 is 3, which is divisible by 3. So I know I can divide everything by 3. Do they share any variables?
No.
No, so my greatest common factor is does not include a variable. It's just a value.
Yep.
Okay, so 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. 51xy divided by 3 is
17xy.
plus 17xy. And 210y squared divided by 3 is
70.
plus 70y squared with a greatest common factor of 3. Is my leading coefficient 1? So I can try to factor it. I want factors of 70y squared, or just 70, right? That have a sum of 17. Factors of 70.
Oh, 7, 7. Easy.
What is it?
10 and 7.
10 and 7. So I'm going to put x plus 10 and x plus 7. Do you agree? And there's a coefficient of 3. But here's my problem. I don't want 70. I want 70y squared. So it's not 10 times 7. It's 10y times 7y. And then if you look, the inside and outside, 10y times x is 10xy. And x times 7y is 7xy. And that together makes 17xy.
Times 3. So 1.
Last but not least, x squared minus 49. Here's my problem. Every other problem we've done has been a
Long time.
trinomial. This is a,
Binomial.
can you rewrite this
Yeah.
binomial
Oh. Into a
as
trinomial?
a trinomial?
You do plus 0.
Wait, as a trinomial?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
You want it to be in the form of x squared plus bx plus c, correct?
C equals 0.
Perfect. Not c.
The C would be zero.
The c is negative 49. The b is 0.
Same thing.
Not the same thing.
Why is, oh, there is no.
Oops.
Sometimes the simplest answers are the right ones. Oh yeah.
So, what am I looking for?
Greatest common.
No question.
What?
Okay. What's your question?
Okay, so C doesn't have variable.
C does not have a variable.
Then last number 4, but the C has a variable. 7 divided.
But that is.
But we put it in at the end.
Remember, you guys found the greatest common factors that were,
Yeah.
and then you figured out you had to add the y. So here,
We want factors
I need a Y.
of negative 49
this is a fun one, guys. Yeah.
that have a sum of 0.
So fun. Yeah, easy.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
it. Because what kind of number is 49?
Perfect square.
Perfect square.
Oh. What?
Perfect square.
I didn't know that was in either.